Hello, storygoers, and welcome back to another episode of Tales from the Cartridge, the video game storytelling podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Eric Penrod.
And I'm your co-host, Ryan Bauer.
Ryan, no one can see this right now. I'm the only one that's benefiting from this. You are gloriously standing right now during this episode. You showed me your amazing new table, your amazing new computer desk. Sorry.
Yep.
I was going to say table, and that sounded sacrilegious. I shouldn't have never... How dare I call it a table? That's awful. But the light is shining behind you. You almost look like you're like a messiah or something. Yeah.
In a little bit of ways I am. But also we need blinds in the office. Both of those things can be true.
It's like you come down to spread the word on beautiful computer tables and that go up and down and... It's just amazing. And the wood.
The magic power. You too can have this if you pay a bunch of money. Not to me though. I don't.
Not sponsored. Maybe what? Oh,
but we would be.
Man! Literally though. Yeah.
We are open to sell out.
I will sell out hard. I always thought too, if one day, Ryan, we ever did sponsorship deals, I think we would always. I could see you and I don't want to speak for you, so tell me if I'm right or wrong here. You and I talking about this, if it's a good fit, because if there's something that isn't anything related to us, I feel like it'd be kind of weird. You know what I mean? But if there is a company out there that sees the value in sponsoring us and wants to maybe give us a free computer desk to just talk about how amazing they are, I would be happy to sell out to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, where are we? Ryan, how are you? And what have you been playing?
I'm doing pretty good. This was a really rough week at work. A lot of long hours, a lot of busy days, a lot of folks not feeling good. We've got this really bad flu bug going around that's taking people out for a week at a time. It's real miserable. But hopefully everyone next week will be back and healthy so that I can then rest. I can then lay down and rest.
If you're listening, you better show up next week.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, other than that, I'm doing good. I did nothing yesterday except play Diablo with our friend Dave. The open beta is out, and so we played that all day. Very fun, very good game made by bad folks. But a good game.
Bad leaders.
Fun game.
Bad leaders.
Bad leaders.
Yeah.
Yes,
good designers. Bad leaders.
Good designers. I hope.
You're right. That's a good point.
I hope. I don't know if they're all good folks. But they're good at making games, and this is a very fun one. If you like Diablo 3, you'll like this. I dived into Diablo 2 a little bit, and it was okay. I enjoyed it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as our friend Dave. But if you enjoyed Diablo 3, this feels like more complex and also more simple in that, it is easier to jump into, but if you want to dive into it, there's a lot more options. My partner last night while I was getting ready for bed, she just jumped on and played for, she was just going to play a little bit and then, sat here for an hour just moving around as a barbarian. So, good times. Other than that, I've been playing some Destiny, of course. Mm-hmm. We're on, I think, week 3 or 4, and that's been very fun. I haven't done the new raid or anything like that yet, and there's a lot of controversy around that, but we don't got to get into that nonsense.
Okay.
Just a bunch of angry gamers. Last night, I started Midnight Suns because it's on sale, and it finally is verified on the Steam Deck.
Was it Marvel? The Marvel game?
Yeah, Marvel Midnight Sun. It's fully on the Steam Deck. I was kind of waiting for it to be working on the Steam Deck because it feels like a pretty perfect Steam Deck game. It's if you like XCOM, it's a more fluid and dynamic XCOM with cards. Your abilities are playing cards. It's super cool. I really enjoy it so far. It's kind of cheesy, and campy, but intentionally so. Very very Ultimate Alliance. We're going to say silly, ridiculous things. We're going to make really bad jokes. For the first 10 minutes of the game, Iron Man refers to Doctor Strange as Dr. Spooky. And then, the other characters who are meeting Doctor Strange for the first time all call him Dr. Spooky. Really cheesy, bad, but it's all in good fun. And then there was a new PlateUp update with something called Turbo Mode, which is every day you get a new card. And it is impossible. My partner and I couldn't beat the first day. It is too hard.
Oh my god.
Maybe with more than 2 people it'd be manageable, but man oh man. They also redid the whole starting area so you can see all kinds of cool new stuff. But and you can have saves now, so you can have different runs saved. which is very cool. So that each month they make it more of Played Up, so that's fun. But that's it. That's all the things I've been playing. Eric, how are you? And what have you been playing?
I'm good. I feel a little bad that it's such a rough week because I was gonna say, since daylight savings came in, I've been sleeping very poorly, but I think that's very normal, I guess, for the shift from daylight savings.
Yep.
But like all the clients that have sat in my office have reported how happy they are because they just feel this week has just changed them. Like they are just all happier because of the shift. There's more sun.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, you know, bright tides are coming. So I felt bad that you said you had a rough week. I'm sorry you had a bad week.
I mean, it's one of those things where I got to work and it was dark, and I left when it was dark. So I didn't get any sun. I got none.
That's not okay.
I got to work at 6:40 and I got home at 6:30. So it's just how it goes sometimes.
I'm good though. I'm good. Having a nice weekend. It's just been very chill. I went to an open house. I'm trying to buy a house right now in the state of Maine, which is literally impossible. It's kind of funny how sad it is. But yeah, so you just laugh it off. You cry a little bit and you move forward. But I have a nice apartment. I'm very lucky. So not taking it. Whoa! Almost knocked my mic down. Not taking it for granted though. I've been a huge lame-o because I've only been playing one game, though it's a good game, I would say. It's Breath of the Wild still. So, Ryan, I need to correct something from last week. From last we talked, I mean. I said I was going to beat the game. I was going to beat all the shrines in Breath of the Wild without beating any of the divine beasts and then go and beat the game. Well, that was my intention. So I was playing one morning, and then I got to a part, and I could not do the temple because one of the divine beasts in the desert was causing a stir in the sands. I looked it up. You can only beat 118 of the shrines out of 120 without defeating any of the divine beasts. You have to beat 2 specific divine beasts to access all of the shrines. So I beat the game. I was like, screw that noise. I ain't doing that. But then my client at work brought in. I'm a cool therapist. I play the Switch at work with my clients, my younger clients.
That's how you know. That's how you know if they're cool.
You know, with adults, they come in and they see and even teenagers too, see the appeal of therapy. They want to be there. They do the work, right? Typically. With kids, it's different. They don't know why therapy is important. They just kind of know what's being told to them, right? So they need to have a buy-in. So for me, a lot of my clients love video games. So we do our 20 to 25 minute therapy session. Because they're kids, they can't do a full 50. It's really hard. Then the rest of the time, we play Switch. Because that is what gets the kids in the door. And that's like what makes them want to do the work. And it's awesome. So anyway, I had a client bring in the small third-party Zelda amiibo chips. You know what I'm talking about, the little cards. And so
They can be everything?
Yeah. I was blasting through those. I was just blasting through every single one he had. I was getting as much stuff as I could. And then I found out Tears of the Kingdom will have in-game rewards for all the amiibos from Breath of the Wild and all the other Zelda games too. So long story short, I bought one. I just came in today. I have 38 something amiibo chips. Then now after this, I'll probably jump on and go and start going through. And I'll probably just go defeat the divine beasts and just because I have we have 2 months, less than 2 months until Zelda comes out. So. Yeah, wow, that took longer than I thought. So just TLDR, just Breath of the Wild. But yeah, storygoers, we hope you're doing well. We hope you're happy and healthy and all that good stuff. And of course, you can send us your thoughts, feelings, and perspectives to talesfromthecartridge@gmail.com. All of the E's are 3s. You can also find us on Instagram. You can also leave us a voicemail or text at our toll-free number at 207-494-4334. And we'll read all those things in our next episode. I forgot to say, we hope you enjoyed our last episode of Best Adaptations. That was a good one. I mean, you want to go rewatch everything. I haven't watched anything yet. I was going to watch Mortal Kombat, and then I threw on Puss in Boots, which is a good movie.
the new one. Very good.
It's really. I really liked it a lot. I really liked it a lot. Surprisingly, I was like, why do I want to watch this? It was that animation style from Spider-Man. Into the Spider-Verse. Mm-hmm. It has touches of that in Puss in Boots, and I really love that animation style. I think it's so cool. It's so fun. And of course, storygoers, you can also donate to us on Patreon. A nice, cool, crisp dollar bill or an electronic dollar bill. Either or. We accept either currency. No Bitcoin though. I don't know.
If you want to send us one whole Bitcoin, you can. Anything less than that, we don't want.
No. Yeah. Can you do less than one Bitcoin?
Yeah, Eric, so you send 0.2. one Bitcoin is worth like $50,000.
Well, you can send us a Bitcoin. Wait, hold up.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what the actual prices are right now. But yeah, like one Bitcoin is an obscene amount of money, or at least was.
Oh, all right, editor, whoever's editing this, edit out that part. we'll take whatever Bitcoin you want to give. I don't know how to cash it in. I'm not into it, but man, I'll find out.
Yeah, so currently, Eric, one Bitcoin is worth $28,000.
Holy, are you serious?
Yes. So oftentimes people will buy like 0.0012 Bitcoins to buy things, but yeah, no, it's silly.
Is it? Can you say that it's Bitcoins if it's 0.10? Isn't like of one Bitcoin? Like, is it like I don't
a bit cent? I don't know.
People say Bitcoins. They feel better about themselves that they have more than one when really they really don't even have one. How does this work? All right. Well,
I think you say like I have 0.3 Bitcoin.
Is that how you pick up people in a bar and like a really like edgy, like in like Silicon Valley?
If somebody walked up to me and said, "Hey, I have 3 Bitcoin. You want to go on a date?" I'd probably say yeah. If they're offering me 3 Bitcoin, that's like $70K.
So you would sell out for 3 Bitcoins?
No, that's almost $90K. Yes, I would. An evening for $90K.
The episode of us just selling out.
Eric, speaking of, I was doing in my job. Sometimes I do interviews, and we were interviewing this person. One of the questions was like, "Hey, what are your long-term career goals?" And this person gave like just the best answer that I kind of want to use moving forward. The person said they're non-binary. They said, "I'm not really focused on career goals. I'm first focused on like personal wellness." And I'm going to keep doing a job as long as it makes me feel good and happy. And as soon as the job stops doing that, I'm not going to do that job anymore.
Wow.
So like,
I love
Bitcoin,
that.
man. If you're going to give me $90K, that's going to make me very happy. And I'm going to focus on my personal happiness and development. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put in the work. But
yeah. And then
it was a really good answer.
You sign the marriage papers, you look at the person and you go, I'm not happy anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Goodbye.
You need 1.5 of your Bitcoins. Fair enough. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Wait, we're on Patreon. Yeah. One cool dollar bill, one cool Chris dollar bill, one Electron dollar bill, or as many Bitcoins as you want to send us to our cool Patreon. I've been working on editing scripts to put onto the Patreon. They're not on yet. I'm sorry. I will get to it soon. But you will also get the warm, fuzzy feelings of supporting your favorite podcast. And one day, if we get big enough, we could just do it full time and give you so many more stories. We can go back to the days of Tales in the beginning. We had 4 stories a month. You remember that a long time ago?
Yeah.
And that was, oh my God, literally, it gives me shivers down my spine. And right now, if it was like 2020 during COVID when I was between jobs, it was a dream for me. Right, it occupied my time. I felt like I had a purpose. Now, the idea of 4 scripts a week, 4 scripts in a month would literally make you cry. So there's just no way. Anyway, you can also rate us on Apple and Spotify, of course. Whew. Okay, 14 minutes and 15 seconds in. Whew, it has been a ride already. Before we jump into our main point today, we have a write-in from our last write-in, Alex from Texas. And I'm going to start. He sent us a few messages, so I kind of put them all together. So here we go. Hey guys, it's Alex. I sent you all 2 emails, which I compiled all here. It's a side note from Eric. I compiled them all here. In a short period because I forgot something in the first and I forgot something in the second, so I didn't want to send a third. But Eric, in my very first email, you mentioned what I thought of Assassin's Creed Unity, and I loved it. I got a PS4 a couple years after it came out, so by the time I got it all, the bugs were out. Oh, that's awesome. I also love history, and the French Revolution is one of my favorite topics. Unity, I think, is when they really perfected the parkour and assassinations, and just how fluid Arnaud was in it. I'm looking forward to Mirage and that gameplay returning, and I think how Ubisoft is going forward after the RPG style is what they should do with future games and alternate between the 2 styles. I forgot to even talk about The Last of Us show. I've been watching it with my wife, and as of right now, we're at episode 6. We have to watch it on weekends. By the time we get home on weekends, it's too late for her to watch, and it's too spooky late at night. Plus, we have to stop every couple episodes because of how emotional it is, since she doesn't play games and doesn't know the story. The Bill and Frank episode was one of my favorites. I played it. I loved how they made Sam deaf, and it made the end of the episode all the more heartbreaking. Alex continues. I'm almost caught up now. He means to our episodes. But yeah, it's Ain't Sane. It's my gamer tag I made when I was 13 because I heard the one song, quote, Insane in the Membrane on the radio right before I made it. Don't judge. There's no judgment. Also, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice was something I always wanted to play, and after hearing Celeste talk about it and how she described the gameplay and story made me want to play it more. Anyway, take care. I just had to pull into the parking lot to type this after hearing how Ryan pronounced it, and then Eric laughed and say how it's supposed to be said. So funny. That was one of my favorite times when you I forgot how you pronounced it, but it was so funny.
No idea. Couldn't do it again if you paid.
I felt really bad afterwards. Actually, I was like, wow, I really set you up for failure there. Like that was kind of. I did not mean to do that, but then it started coming. You know, it's like a bad accident. You're just kind of watching and just getting really quick going through Alex's email. One, totally agree about Unity. I love Unity. I know I said this all before. I think Unity is my favorite one of the Assassin's Creed games. I love how fluid Arnaud was as well. I am really looking forward to Mirage, but I think you're right. I think moving back and forth between the RPG style and the Unity style is going to be, it would be a really cool idea. So many people love the RPG style. Would you say you like the RPG style more than the Unity style?
I think I liked some of the story. I mean, specifically, I liked Bayek as a character. Bayek is one of my favorite characters, one of my favorite, especially main characters. So that game specifically, I liked a lot. The others were fun, but they didn't. They're not the reason I fell in love with Assassin's Creed, and that gameplay isn't what the reason I love Assassin's Creed. I can get open world big games a lot of other ways.
Yeah. And
I did. I think I prefer the Unity style. I'm also very excited for Mirage for that reason. Mm-hmm. I think the open world are fun. They're interesting and they're exciting, but I think my preferred play is that OG Assassin's Creed sneaky thing. Yeah,
I totally agree. I love the idea of a AC1 remake with the Unity style gameplay.
For sure,
I would so cool. Playing Assassin's Creed for the first time, I was so mesmerized by it. I mean, I think we probably talked about this when we did AC1 in our Tales episode, but like it was just so much fun to sneak around and plan your assassination, and it was just so much fun. It's just such a good time. The only thing I think they would be really cool to add in somehow is that in what's it called, Odyssey, the bounty style when people would hunt you and you'd hunt them back. That was my favorite part of the whole game. Like, I love that game. It's a great game. But that being hunted and you hunting other people is so much fun. I love that part. But yeah, anyway. And yeah, so Alex, thank you for writing in. We appreciate it a whole lot. Everyone else, what are you doing? You're not writing in as much as Alex. Come on, step it up. That's to make you feel bad. You're always all great. But of course, with today's episode, I will preface, though, that we are going through the last 4 episodes. Yeah, okay. 4. Yeah, you see the numbers 6 through 9, and I go, well, I know math. That's 3. That's not right. We're going through the last 4 episodes of this season of The Last of Us. So if you have not watched, Alex, if you haven't watched yet, all of them, please turn away, but come back when you're done. If you have not watched them all, please do yourself the service and turn us off. I know it's horrible. It's probably very hard to hit that stop button. We have beautiful voices. You probably just... You listen to our bedtime stories. Is that sultry? Side note, totally off tangent. My girlfriend listens to Get Sleepy, the podcast. It's like bedtime stories, and I just kind of like every time I hear it, I'm like kind of salty. Like, I hope I sound this good. Like, he's like,
wow.
He's a British person. Like, I'm Thomas. I'm here to help you get sleepy. You know, just like, screw off, Thomas. Like, I don't know why. He's probably a nice guy.
I'm sure he's very nice.
Yeah.
But he's also, it's like, Lindsay isn't listening to you talk and put her to sleep. That just feels.
What if his partner listens to Tales, and then he's like,
okay.
Yeah. What if he's like,
okay.
He goes, that Eric has a very sultry voice. I can't do British voices, or accents.
His darn
voices.
American accent.
All right. Anyway, all right. So we're back into it, though. So yes, we're doing the last 4 episodes of The Last of Us the same way we did the first 5 episodes. Basically, just going through all the similarities, all the differences, and what we think about each episode, and then kind of giving the rundown of what our total thoughts are of the season. I will say, we had not talked about this, so I'm taking a huge leap of faith here. Like Assassin's Creed, call back that Ryan, I think you and I will have some differences in this in this episode in our perspectives.
I think,
So,
for sure.
yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
You think so too?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. I think from some of our conversations with our group of friends, I think we have some
that's
differences
true.
in our feelings
Okay.
of episodes. And also looking at the document, I think there's some differences.
Oh, that's true.
But
clearly.
but it'll be interesting to see. I think we were both coming at it from different perspectives and from different places of kind of where we are and where we've experienced The Last of Us and what we're wanting from that experience, or at least can remember from that experience. Or it's we're also two different people who sometimes want different things, and that's okay too.
That's true.
So yeah,
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, then, you ready to just jump right into it?
let's do it.
Would you like to start off for episode 6, titled Kin?
Sure. Yeah, Kin. So Kin, episode 6. So this is Joel and Ellie make their way to Jackson. They have this really nice conversation with two native folks that I think was really great.
That was cool.
It was such an incredible interaction. And also, I didn't know this, but like the actors are like fairly famous native actors, like very
Really?
well known in the community. Yeah, they're like some of the very few, very well known native actors. The male, I think, was in Dancing with Wolves. Was the main native individual in Dancing with Wolves, which is super cool.
Oh.
So yeah, like they're pretty well known individuals. So like really cool for that community to get to see some of those folks in this large HBO series. Started off with that, and then really quickly moved into Jackson, and essentially plays out the emotional climax of the movie pretty beat for beat. There are certainly some huge differences
Oh, you mean
in
the
how
game?
they.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the game. Sorry, not the movie. Not a movie. The game. There are certainly some big differences in how they get there and where things are paced and where things are moving. But eventually they get to the same place of that really famous and probably the most important scene, that like argument between Joel and Ellie, that kind of, I'm not your daughter. No, you're not my daughter. That conversation is like the emotional climax of the movie, of the game, and then of the show. Sorry,
It would have been on the movie, too. You're right. If there was a movie in some other timeline, there's a movie of it.
I mean, I would hope so, although who knows. But yeah, so that and then it follows them, their experience in Jackson, and then them leaving together, and then in the end, Joel getting injured, and again in a way that was very different from the game. Oh yeah, I guess I just kind of jumped into a bunch of stuff.
That's okay. No,
Well,
we're not
yeah.
going to go through the whole episode anyway. But yeah,
Cool.
I think
All right.
it's good. And we'll say too, spoiler alert for these 4 episodes.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, we talked about it already. But, turn away if you haven't watched these already. But I think we should keep it to just The Last of Us Part 1 and just not
For
talk
sure.
about anything about Part 2.
For
Right?
sure.
If you
For
know,
sure.
you know, right? I figured we kind of keep it to ourselves for people next season to pick up the things. But yeah, we can kind of just be ignorant to the idea of what may come. So yeah, but no, I think so. Going through the similarities, right? Like you're saying, like the classic scene with Joel and Ellie, Joel pushing Tommy to take Ellie, though the difference being in that, like obviously that Ellie doesn't run away and that Joel chases him through a bunch of raiders. And that the Tommy and Joel scene where Joel is just very in the TV show where he's so vulnerable, he's crying. Yeah. I think that was such a cool touch because Joel is just such a tough guy in the game. You don't really see him you see him vulnerable, but just not in that emotional way. So I think having that scene was so cool. So here's where I run into my little rut, if that's cool if I jump into it.
Yeah,
so,
please. Yeah.
When I was watching it, I was so into it, and I should preface this. I love this episode. Don't get me wrong. Where I stumble a little bit with this is that Joel really wrangles with the idea of taking Ellie with him, and they don't have that moment like they do in the game where they kind of make up or they understand. Kind of like they kind of compromise the idea of what needs to happen when Ellie's like there isn't anyone else, right? It has to be you. If it's not you, they'll just be scared. And I think that's what kind of brings Joel back to being like, okay, let's do this. I guess it has to be me. Whereas in the TV show, he like goes to bed, right? He's wrangling like, what should I do? He goes to bed. He has that nightmare that I forget exactly what happens. He wakes up. Tommy doesn't even know that he's gone out of the house, right? Tommy goes and just grabs Ellie. They find Joel in the stall, and he's like, let's go. And it was like, why do you have this, like, you were just crying last night about how you can't do this. So why is it okay now all of a sudden? Like, they had the talk, right? But, like, it just didn't feel like that talk with Ellie, I guess I didn't really see the impact that it had on Joel, because it brought him to a point where he was open to taking her. She's, of course, going to pick him, which she does. And he just kind of accepts that. And I think that if they had just, like, a moment of him, like, reconcile, you see him like more reconciling with it more, or he really pushes for Ellie, like, Ellie, I need you to understand what the risks are for taking me or having me take you in this mission, in this journey, and she still picked him, then I'd be more for it. But he was just like, it was me or Tommy, and she's like, you, and just throws the bag and they go. And I was like, that, it just didn't feel like enough to make any sense to me. I was just kind of like, that just felt really rushed. You know what I mean? I don't know. What were your thoughts on that? Do you agree or disagree?
I certainly think there is something to be said about there wasn't a ton of... It was very fast. It was... we have our argument, then it's the next day. Joel does make an offhanded comment like, I came here to steal a horse and leave, but then I didn't leave. Which I think is him saying, I came here to run away, and I couldn't. And now you're here, and so now I have to face this. I certainly think there could have been more to have that connection. I think for me, it still felt like there was enough catharsis. There was enough. They didn't have to say anything. They said everything. They said all they could say. They shared everything with each other that they could in that moment. That to me, I guess my perspective on it was that Joel didn't have anything else he could say. He didn't have any more to give in that moment. He had said something that was really hard, and he heard Ellie. And then them kind of being mean to each other and like saying how they really feel brought them closer.
Yeah.
And that was all he needed to kind of be ready. He was ready to let her go until they had that argument. And then after that argument, that was enough for him to say, okay, she wants me. I'm trying to push her away because I don't think I can do it, but she still wants me. And then in that moment, he tries to run away and can't.
Right.
And then because he can't, he just has to face it. Again, I certainly think it could have been stronger if there was more there. But for me, I think it was enough. There was enough there for me to kind of, okay, this makes sense. And again, maybe it's because that's all I needed from that moment. Or maybe, like, I don't know. It just, to me, it felt like enough.
Yeah.
For that to feel like there was enough emotional intensity there that he heard her and moved on. And it wasn't a huge leap for me to believe that he tried to run away from this and he couldn't do it. And because he couldn't do it, he had to accept the fact, well, if I can't run, I only have one other choice.
Yeah.
And that's to take her. But again, I certainly think it could have been stronger if there was more there.
I think you just made a really good point. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and I think, like, it probably would have been even stronger if there was I think we talked about this in conversation, but here, if there was, he had to go save her and she was in danger, that helping him realize that he can't let go, I think that would have made it stronger. And it was probably just a matter of, okay, we have 50 minutes. We can spend this, shooting a really cheap shot in a barn or this large, intense shot with weapons and sets and all that kind of stuff. And they went with the other one, and they thought it would be enough. And I think for some people it will, and for some people it won't.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm actually really glad you shared that perspective, Ryan, because I feel like I think you're right. I think you're valid in how you're seeing this. I think there was a lot of emotional connection, and to the point where Joel's like, "What else do I say here? I guess I have to do this." I think what now in my head as I was listening to you talk and kind of thinking about it all, I think what would have worked better now is if Joel had just committed, right? Rather than questioning it again, is it going to be me or Tommy? Just be like, "You ready to go?" And she was like, "Well, I thought you weren't going to take me." It goes, "It can't be anybody else, can it?" Or something like that. Like something more reassuring. Yeah. That would have really gotten me. That'd be like, that's perfect. Like, that says enough. It says that you listened and that you know that you need to do this. I think that's what worked the best here for me personally.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Because again, giving her that choice again is maybe coming from a place of Joel not feeling confident, but it also then kind of shows that he didn't hear her and that there really isn't a choice. If you give me another choice, there's not a choice. So why are you giving me a choice? What's the point of it? So I think that's a really good... Yeah, that's a great point.
Unless he could be like, it's me or no one, right? Unless you want to take Tommy. And she goes, no. Yeah. He goes, fair enough, or something like that. I think that would have been a more solid. But that's like the one thing. Oh, actually, that's not true.
Yep.
Yeah, there's one more thing. Yeah. I think the other thing that I'm nitpicky about, not to be negative, right? I try hard to be negative. I think, and it makes, I thought about it a lot actually today, because I knew we were going to talk about this episode. And I think what I wish would have happened would not have worked. I think what they did was the more logical choice, and what I'm talking about is Joel being stabbed by the broken bat, right? Like,
yeah.
I think this is one of the downfalls of being a video game player loving this series, is that I was really looking forward to that moment when Joel falls and just smacks into that metal pole. Like, that is, I remember playing the game thinking, holy crap, he is going to die. Like, he is going to straight up die. I think, though, when you look at it from a realistic standpoint, the idea of him getting literally pierced through, in and out of his body with a metal pole, ripping himself out of it, going onto the horse, then getting stitched up and surviving was probably a huge stretch in the idea of realism. So I think that the broken wooden bat makes way more sense. It just wasn't that, like, impact. I think for people who probably had never seen anything about it, they were like stunned. It was like, oh god, he got stabbed. I think my expectation, unfortunately, was just too unchecked for me. I was like, oh, and my girlfriend's like, what's wrong? Like, aren't you like, this is wild. He could die. And I was like, he could have fallen on a metal pole.
Yeah, it's a really intense moment that, like, again, and I think, I didn't even think about that. I think that's a really good point, in that, like, in the game, Joel gets stabbed, Joel gets shot, and you just kind of, the screen gets a little fuzzy, and then it gets unfuzzy, right? Yeah. So where, like, that impact, it has to be something that intense, of you getting impaled on a piece of rebar to, like, feel like, oh no, like, this character who I've been playing could die, and, like, as far as we knew, did die, right? Like,
yeah,
it kind of framed it as that, which we'll get to in the next episode. But yeah, that makes sense that, like, that would have been maybe hard for people to believe, and it could have even been, like, a conversation with Neil and Chris, is his name Chris or Craig? I think it's
Craig. I think it's
Go ahead.
Craig.
I don't know.
I think it's Craig. Let me see really fast.
I'll
look it up really
Craig
fast.
sounds right too.
Craig,
maybe there was a conversation between Neil and showrunner, who's like, "Hey, that doesn't make any sense. That I know that happened in the game, but that's going to be so hard to shoot, so hard to film, and then there is no way that Ellie can lift Joel off of a piece of rebar,
right,
on her own and carry her, right?
Yeah.
Because it would
have been impossible.
Because she barely got him to the horse that was, like, through 2 feet away.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's really interesting.
I think so thinking about it in the frame, the showrunner's name is Craig. So just
Craig.
I didn't even look up the last name. It starts with an M. Doesn't matter. So if you're listening, Craig, great guy. Love your last name. It's cool.
Yeah, you're doing great.
You're doing a great job.
You don't need us to say your last name, Craig.
Oh man, now he's got to say it. It's Craig.
No, you don't. That's the
Mazin.
thing. He doesn't need us.
Mazin,
yeah.
He'll need us one day, Ryan. Remember on Portal 3, and our names are out there.
When they're making Portal 3 into a TV show on HBO, and he's the showrunner, then he'll need us.
We'll be. Oh, I can't say that. It's a spoiler for part 2. But anyway, I think looking at it from a realism perspective, they did it much better than if the metal rebarb.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rebarb.
I want to say rhubarb and sound like an idiot. Rebarb. Impaling him, I think that would have taken a lot of people out of it. Like, that's not real. You know what I mean? Like, in a show about, like, cordyceps invading humans, which seems kind of real, actually. But I think that the bat was a much better use, which then leads later. Actually, they put that scene with that individual, that raider, that person in whatever group they're in, and his death when Joel kills him. They make that pay off later, which I thought was really smart too. So, like, it really was the best thing they could have done. At the time, I wasn't happy with it, but that was because I was stuck in this perspective of, like, I cannot wait for him to fall and get impaled, which sounds terrifying and bad about me. But, so yeah, I think I look back now. I said this was the weakest episode so far. The Joel thing made me feel like this is still the weakest episode so far. However, overall though, for a quote unquote weak episode, it was still like a solid 9 for me. Like, still great. Like this, Pedro Pascal is fantastic. I know we're talking about a lot of negatives. I will say the positives. I love Joel and Tommy's interactions together. So real. Pedro Pascal does a great job with his emotions to convey the stress and struggle that he's had, especially after losing Tess and just trying to get through this and knowing that he feels like he cannot do this. And you really believe that he feels he can't do it. And of course, Bella Ramsey as Ellie with the classic Joel and Ellie speech in this episode. Like they both pulled it off flawlessly. Like so that scene is great.
I can't imagine having to go into that scene
as
an actor and needing to pull that off because oof.
Yeah.
It's
no wonder on my Instagram I always just see, because I like to probably like one image of Last of Us, and now it's all I ever see is content from Last of Us. But like you can kind of tell, like, I mean, this is me having an inference off of a few videos I've seen, but Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey seem to have a fantastic relationship outside of this show, and I imagine that just doing all these emotional scenes and just being together and all this probably like has made them best friends in some way. Like I can't even imagine what that's like. So, but yeah. So then with Joel impaled, they ride off on their horse, which leads us to episode 7 of Left Behind. Now, Ryan, I think we talked about this a little bit I didn't actually ever play Left Behind. I knew what happens, but I never actually really got to it. So this is the only episode I really had no context of, and I think I really enjoyed it for it. I think I didn't really know. I knew what was going to happen, but I think what they did was just so much fun, and what not to. I didn't really know what to expect from this interaction at the mall, what was going to happen, but as we know, quick run through, it's Joel and Ellie are in this spare house they found. Joel has obviously been impaled. He's trying to survive. Ellie's not sure what to do. She's going to run upstairs to try to do something and stops and has a flashback to her time in Fedra, where she has her best friend Riley. They go to the mall, have a great time, realize Riley's with the Fireflies, is going to be leaving, and then, of course, the attack from the infected in the clicker. So, the similarities, of course, is the 5 wonders of the mall that Riley does with Ellie. I say like I know this. Thank you, Ryan. Ellie and Riley's relationship, which obviously was both strong in both games, in the game and the TV show, and their friendship evolving into a more romantic one, which they did such a good job with. They did really cool with that.
Yeah.
The difference is, of course, being as well the much less fighting and danger, right, until the very, very end of the show compared to the game. In the game, are they fighting more? There's more clickers in the game?
So in the game, there's a little bit of fighting, but in the end, they're attacked by a horde of infected. And you're like dodging through the mall, closing doors, running away, and a horde are coming after you, and you're fighting them off as Ellie and Riley. And so like the music essentially attracts the horde. And then they fight off like a whole bunch of them.
That's what I was freaked out by. Like, and we'll get to that more in a second. But like the loudness of the mall was like it was like give me. I was on pins and needles the whole episode. Like, and of course the differences continue being that there was no conversation between Ellie and the like headmaster leader person of Fedra at the school.
Not at all.
Which is wild because they don't really explain how Ellie ever made it to Fedra. But we can talk about that in the last episode too, because we kind of see
So it's explored in the there's Left Behind, and then there's also American Nightmare. There's like a comic series. That explains a little bit of the before. So this episode is kind of a combination of those two pieces of media, because some of the stuff from here that takes place in the show kind of takes place in the comics. Then they included it in, but it doesn't take place in the game at all.
Okay, fair enough. And of course, the Fedra versus Firefly discussion that Ellie doesn't believe in Fedra in the games, like this Ellie seems to.
Yeah, so in the game, like Riley mentions Fedra, and Ellie says like, "Oh, the fascists." Has no feelings about them at all. Doesn't care about them. And in this show, they kind of show like, oh, Ellie isn't a teenager, and she's going to repeat things she hears from authority figures.
Right.
And, like, that authority figure is being kind of kind to her and saying, hey, you're really smart.
You can be a leader.
I don't want to see you fail. I want to see you be successful. Here's... And she's, like, repeating that and is empowered by that. And in the game, there's nothing like that. She has no connection to Fedra. Doesn't care about anybody in Fedra at all.
Yeah. I love... So, as they progress towards the mall, right, Riley comes back, and they have this interaction, they go to the mall. That whole scene, all those scenes at the mall was so cool, and the idea that these two young people have never actually experienced a mall before, right? They've probably only ever heard about it before. So like the idea, I just like try to put yourself in their shoes for a minute, like the wonder and amazement of this gigantic place that at one time was a fun place people used to go to have fun. being abandoned and all the things that they saw the Victoria's Secret, which was kind of funny, and like the carousel, and then of course the arcade, which was awesome. Like that was so cool. And actually in the behind the scenes stuff, there's all the behind the scenes like footage at the end of each episode, and now there's a 30-minute behind the scenes video that they released at the last episode. But that mall was actually going to be torn down. It's actually going to be torn down. It might have already been torn down. But yeah, it was an abandoned mall, ready to be torn down, and they got in there to use it. And they, of course, had to bring in a carousel, and they bring all these things in to, like, make it work. But, like, of course, it being abandoned, like, what better way to incorporate that? And, like, the scene with Ellie going up the escalator and, like, how fun that was. Like, it was just so... It was just so... freeing of this idea that we had to survive all the time, right? It was just cool to see kids be kids for the first time in a world where you really can't be a kid, you know. But then, of course, as that comes crashing down, you can't help but, like, you know, as things progress and you see the shot of the clicker in the doll store. Of course, the creepy guy clickers in the doll store is like, ugh, like, I was like, what are you doing in that store, you creep? But yeah, but I love the Mortal Kombat 2 stuff. That was fun. That was cool. Yeah. Oh, I love that. The idea that Riley's just been there this whole time, just hanging out, like, it's wild. That was good. I really liked the episode a lot. It was fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's very close to the game. Very close to they kind of capture a lot of the, like, Riley saying I'm going to leave and being sent away is straight from the game. All of that stuff is directly from the game. But yeah, it was a really good episode, and it's. I was really confused. I think, like, how they're going to get all of this crammed together, and then why they decided to add Left Behind in. You know, when there was so much other story to tell in just The Last of Us. But I think it's so important to show this kind of innocent side of Ellie. Yeah. And this kind of, like, carefree, you know, everything can be okay side of Ellie. And then what we see in the next episode, I think is really important and sad and horrible, but, like, really important to establish her character and her growth and development going from, you know, again, we see, like you said in this episode, she's able to kind of just be a teenager and hang out at the mall, which is where you hung out as a teenager, at least for us growing up, and especially for the generations younger than us. Like, you just go and you hang out at the mall, and that's what you do, and they're getting to do that. But then, like, the real world comes, like, crashing around them, and then it's just even more tragic in the end when, like, they have this really beautiful, you know, this is terrible, but, you know, we're gonna do this together. We're gonna, you know, face our end together, and we'll lose our minds together, and we'll just go off, and this is sad, but at least we're together. And then we know what happens, right? Ellie survives, and Riley doesn't. And Ellie feasibly has to kill Riley, right? Has to escape her and kill her, and now the Ellie we see is somebody who's already had to do that.
Right.
This person that she cared about. Which, again, in the same episode after Ellie's talking about loss and what she's had to do and the people that she's lost. Again, it's just really well done in how that it's all connected.
Now, in the game, do you have to kill Riley, or does it kind of end before that happens?
No, same thing. It kind of fades to black with the two of them, like, sitting shoulder to shoulder, leaning up against something, and then it cuts back.
What do you think? I thought it was kind of weird that we don't see that happen. Because you're not sure if Riley's the one that she's mentioned that she's killed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they think that if they can inference it enough that they don't have to show it, that it would be too much to show. I don't know.
Yeah, it probably would be too much to show.
But I mean, it's also, like, a really grim, dark, terrible. We've seen other terrible things.
It's true.
So I don't know.
Last episode, 2 episodes ago, yeah.
Right, exactly. We've seen really terrible things happen. So I don't know if they just, because they didn't show it in the game, they didn't feel like they needed to, or because of what's coming, they wanted it to end, like, in a place. Because the ending of this episode is not bad. Like, it's somewhat uplifting. You know, she comes back. So they didn't want to maybe end it on that really sad note, and then also go back to that. Like, maybe that wouldn't necessarily line up. I don't know.
Yeah, I almost think, like, from just even, like, just talking about this, I'm seeing now maybe one of the reasons they did this, they brought Left Behind, of course, for Ellie's development, was also to show the parallels between how Joel has lost someone, which compels him to push forward. Ellie has done the same. Ellie has been through the same in a very different way, but that also pushes her forward to not lose someone in the same way that Joel does it for her. So like really they're very similar in the regard that they've lost many people that they refuse to lose anyone else anymore, and which is why Ellie grabs that, she finds that thread and needle, and then starts to try to sew him back together. You know what I mean? So like I think it's a huge part. I think that without going too far into the future of what the story is, that moment with Ellie smashing the glass in that last store, in the Halloween store, because she's angry she got bit, I think that was a great way to start settling into this development of her character for what's to come in the future. I think that was I think it showed a lot that Bella Ramsey can handle that stress of, or can handle the acting of what is to come, if that makes sense. So if you know, you know.
Yeah, and I think you talking about that makes me like think about how not only are Joel and Ellie both like have lost people, but they're like broken in perfect ways to fit each other, right?
Yes,
like,
yes.
Ellie is broken in that everyone she's cared about have abandoned her or left her, and Joel is broken that everyone he's cared about he couldn't save. So these two people who just are broken in perfect ways to fit together to set up this like really intense relationship. To really, wanna help each other and help each other through this experience and form a really strong bond because of that.
It's interesting because it's funny, the more we talk to each other, I feel like the more we're learning about this, right? Well, it's interesting too from like a therapeutic standpoint, from like a clinical standpoint, because like when I talk to clients who have deep relationships, but they feel like they've found their one, which then completes them. We often talk about how that can be a dangerous slippery slope, because then if you lose this person, now you feel like you're not whole anymore, right? We have to learn to love ourselves and find our, help complete ourselves as much as possible. I always tell them it's a picture like a complete circle, but there's chips and there's divots because no one's perfect, right? We all have a little, our circle's not perfect. But we try to find someone else who also has as much of a complete circle as possible, and we be happy together. We uplift each other together. We don't complete each other. We're just really happy to be with each other and complement each other. But then, of course, like that's in a society where we're not trying to survive the idea of The Last of Us, right? So like for Joel and Ellie, the idea of trying to complete yourself and then find someone else who's also complete, outside of even just a romantic relationship, into any kind of dynamic, right, is like that. The idea that you have to complete yourself first and find someone else that's complete in this world of The Last of Us is kind of impossible. Like it's kind of like it's a huge undertaking. So that's in order to survive. That's kind of what they need to do, which is really it's kind of sad in that regard. Like it's sad that it has to come to that. But you also need to survive, and humans can't survive on their own.
Yeah.
Very, very deep. Wow, we went way further into that than I thought we would. Very cool. Yeah. All right, Ryan, you want to set us into episode 8?
Yeah. Jumping in episode 8, when we are in need. Episode where we get to meet David. Ugh. Joel is injured. Ellie has to take care of him. Ellie is hunting and meets David. They have some interactions. David expresses that they know Joel killed their members. And then from there you have all kinds of things happen.
It's wild.
From similarities, Joel is injured is the same. Ellie has to take care of him. Ellie wants this medicine. Joel meets David. They find out about it. Ellie kills a deer. They run into each other chasing that deer. David becomes kind of obsessed with Ellie, and in the end, trigger warning for sexual assault. Yep. Ends up attempting to sexually assault her. And in retaliation, she ruthlessly murders him. You also have Joel torturing these two people, which again, straight from the game. Does
he electrocute them in the game?
He might.
A little bit
with a car battery. He might.
Yeah, it's basically the same.
Yeah, the same thing. Yeah, exactly.
That would have been a lot for a guy dying to put together.
Right.
Sorry.
And then the Ellie being tied down and saying I'm infected, showing her arm,
yep.
Directly from the game. That whole sequence directly from the game. In differences, in the game, Ellie uses the bow, which I think is a gameplay thing to distinguish those two characters. That in the show she uses the gun. There's that very famous scene of you see this cute rabbit jumping and Ellie shoots it with an arrow. That was not in the game. That in the show, in the game was like pretty iconic and terrifying and sad. In the game, Ellie and David save each other. There's like bloaters you fight like hordes of infected, and all kinds of things happen. And you save each other multiple times, and that's how you build that trust. Where in the show they talk, they have a conversation, they share about each other's past, or David shares about his past. I don't remember, and maybe I'm misremembering this, David explaining who he was before, and the really religious kind of aspects of this group. I don't remember that being in the game at all. Obviously, we don't see David like slapping children at all in the game, but that we see that in the show. And then the big thing is in the climax of the episode, Joel goes into the burning building and comforts Ellie, and then they go out together. And in the show, Ellie is outside and Joel finds her outside. Those are kind of the two big differences there. A lot happened in this episode.
A lot happened in this episode. It was a really, really hard episode. Like, so intense. Difficult. Yeah. So difficult. I think... So something that comes to my mind here is, like, someone made this point. I forget where I read this. It's probably online somewhere. That, like, in this world of The Last of Us, maybe the one thing the show doesn't do as best as it could is it doesn't showcase... It does a great job showcasing the clickers a lot through the very kind of beginning episodes, but then as you get through the game, as you get through the TV show, you're not really seeing clickers anymore. And how, like, the lack of clickers makes you wonder, like, how, you know, like, how needed is this cure really? Like, you're not really seeing a whole lot of clickers. I almost wish I'd love to know the parameters around, like, the number of episodes they got and the budget, because, like, I feel like they probably could only I imagine they would love to expound on this more and have more episodes and really draw this out, but I imagine 9 was all they could do with the budget that they had. But I would have loved if they had that scene with with Ellie and David shooting and running away from clickers. I think that would have been a huge moment. With the amount of noise they're making a lot, like the gunshots, you think you would have probably saw somebody. But I don't know. So that's just kind of the one thing I thought. I think they did a really... This sounds weird. Hear me out. I think they did a good job with David. And really... Yeah. In the game, you're not quite sure if he is weird or not until you kind of know if you know. With this David, you're kind of feel that way, but you're I think it's much more... What I don't want to say obvious. That sounds negative. Like it's like they did it badly. But, like, you know there's something wrong with this guy. But it's hard to put your finger on it. Especially because his right-hand guy, whose name I forget, which is Troy Baker, does the voice of Joel James. In the game. You can tell that he is very conflicted with David. Like, you can tell David's calling him out, but he's still... I think out of fear, but I'm not positive, right? Like, he's for some reason continuing to follow David, though knowing that David is very... there's something off with David. His compulsion to capture Ellie and not kill her, which Troy Baker's character calls him out on, and David's like, "Are you questioning me right now?" And he backs off, you know, which says a lot because I don't know, like, it's just, it shows the kind of power that David has in the group, especially to, like you said, right, to slap a child across the face, and then get fed food by the mother of that child like it's nothing. It was really off-putting and really horrifying, and of course too. Sorry, I'll stop talking in a second. The payoff of when David says, like, "Oh, we had a member die because of an older man and a young girl." You know what I mean? And so that payoff from episode 6 really comes through for episode 8, when, like, and this group really wants them dead. Like, really wants them dead. Which I guess kind of goes into that, because that's why Troy Baker's so conflicted. Like, why are we leaving these people alive? They killed one of our own. Something actually we didn't mention this in the differences. I just had this thought, but I don't think they showed the hanging dead humans in the barn that Joel finds.
Really briefly, they think they do.
Oh,
Joel
do
finds them in a freezer. Yeah, there's like 3 of them. It's not a ton. I think
I missed that. Okay, no, it's cool. If you know, you know. I forgot. It's been a while since I played.
In the game, I'm not sure. I think you just find out in like I thought you meant in the show. Yeah, I think in the show you find out through like notes or something.
Okay.
Or something.
At least
you eventually find out that these people are capturing people to kill and eat them, but you don't. Yeah. In the game, I don't think you ever find bodies or anything like that.
Okay, that's what I meant. Yeah. So in the TV show, we see the bodies. In the game, we don't.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
They made it a lot easier to understand.
You're exactly right.
And I think they made it a lot easier to understand too, that David, in fact, trigger warning for anybody that's been through any kind of significant trauma, please just be wary. Right? If you watch the show, then you kind of already know what we're going to talk about. That David is essentially a pedophile, right, or essentially an assaulter. Because in the game, I was talking to a client of mine that we'll do our therapy talk in like the last 10 minutes. We talk about The Last of Us, and I mentioned that I thought David was essentially a pedophile and an assaulter, and he's like, "I don't remember him being that in the game." And I was like, "What? Really? I feel like that was I feel like that was more obvious, maybe, or more like subtle, but there." And but I'm glad that they really expounded upon it. Like, that he is this thing, and he alludes to the fact that he was this kind of way before the outbreak happens. Yeah. So like it's really, and then that's how he was able to find himself, you know, quote unquote, find him, or whatever he phrases it as, is now he's in a world with no rules, right? So like it was just really, really gross, and the actor that played him did a fantastic job, I guess. Like I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it was just really the unsettlingness of what had to occur. And the people, at one point in the show, do they question where the meat comes from? Like, where'd you get this? Like, oh, yeah. They're like, where'd you get this meat from? Because they're prepping it or whatever?
Yeah. And he's like, venison.
And
we know as viewers, they haven't gotten the deer that Ellie caught yet.
Right.
But if you're not paying attention, like you might miss, or it is a subtle. And it almost feels like they know, but
Troy Baker
don't want to talk about it. Yeah.
Call out the actor. Troy Baker's character, I think he had that hesitation of like, I don't want to do this, but I think he did it as he knew, as he had to.
Yeah.
It was just, it's sad because you can look at them and be like, oh, how could they do that? But of course, if they have to survive. Yeah. I hate them for killing the horse. I hate them.
Yeah.
I hate them. I get why they did it. Yeah. Oh, I mean, David's a freak, but like I get why they would have to kill the horse. But like, yeah, it was just that was a really hard episode to watch altogether. It was really intense. I will say one thing I struggled as great. All the performances were fantastic. This is me nitpicking. I'm so sorry. Hopefully people are annoyed by this. The one thing I wish I would have saw would have changed if I. Craig, if you're watching, let me come in and I'll change some things up for you and make it better. I think because when Ellie gives Joel that knife when they're in the house, right? When the group is looking through the house for Ellie and Joel. She goes, if anyone comes down here, stab him and kill him, right? And Joel's kind of like half conscious, like he's not even saying anything, right? And then of course Ellie rides away. The people are still searching through the house. One guy finds the downstairs, finds the empty bed, which Joel then comes out and stabs him in the neck. I struggled a little bit with that because I was like, Joel was literally like unconscious a second ago. Like he was awake, but like not there. And now he's just standing up and stabbing someone in the neck. I think I would have liked to see him kind of weak and conscious and like, don't go. You know, like trying to like, he's trying his best to follow her, to like he's being compelled to want to help her, and he can't get up because she's just running away, and she's like, stay right here, and she's like kind of pushing him on the ground, and he's weak.
Yeah,
I think that would have been a lot better because then the guy goes downstairs, and then Joel attacking and stabbing him in the neck would have been much more of a payoff. I think much more believable. I think than Joel kind of like, and then just like, you know, like someone around the neck. You know, that was the only like real gripe I had. I think that would have been a little bit better personally. I'm not a showrunner, so I'm sure it was a lot harder to do that than I'm giving it credit for. Though I will say that Joel's torture scene was executed really, really well. I used the word executed. That was not on purpose, but man, that was a good pun. I'm really proud of myself for that. It was subtle, a subconscious pun. But that knife in the knee, and he goes, if you give me the wrong answer,
like
I'll pop your knee, which is like just that visual is awful. The visual is awful, but just shows how ruthless Joel is when he wants to he wants to save somebody, who saves someone he loves. He will be what he needs to be to do it, and that's the scene that you really see that in.
Right.
That's that old Joel. Yeah. That's that old Joel that had to survive and do messed up stuff that he's not proud of. That was coming out.
Yeah.
In the same way we see then
very intense.
Yeah. And then, which we see again. Actually, when we're talking about Ryan, sorry, I'm taking all the air right now.
No, go for it.
We see again the similarities between Joel and Ellie, because from Joel's brutality of these two people to find out where Ellie went, right? For her to survive, she brutally and rightfully so, just chops David to bits with that knife or that machete or whatever it is. Right?
It's a machete in the game. I don't think it's a machete in the.
I thought. Okay, that's what I thought. I think I was wrong on the show. Yeah, whatever it is, it's butcher. Yeah. You know, in the same way Joel had to be brutal to survive, Ellie is following suit, right? That's the time she, like, for Riley, we assume, because they never really see it, they have a gun. They showed the gun that Riley has, so you're assuming that Ellie shot Riley to kill her and to save herself. But for this is the first time that Ellie really brutally murders somebody in that way, because she has to, right? She has to do it. Yeah. But with David's comment of like there's anger in your heart or there's rage in your heart, I forget exactly what he says. Yeah. That is going to really be something. I shouldn't say anymore. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Again, they're doing a really good job of something that I don't think they thought to do or didn't do. And maybe in the remaster of Part 1 they do it, but in the game you don't really see that much of Ellie. Other than this one moment, like when she lashes out, you don't really see much of that. And him talking about that is really, as viewers, letting us know something about Ellie. That even though David is gross and even though he's a bad person, he sees something in her that is true. That is part of who she is, that he recognizes. That he uses to connect with her, because as gross of a person as he is, he wouldn't be able to do the things he did if he didn't understand people.
Yeah.
Right? And be able to talk and use that against folks. But yeah, it's very intense.
I
also
go ahead.
Whatever penicillin they have is just the best penicillin. You only need one shot, and then you're good to go.
She has 2, I think. I think she has 2 or 3.
Does
maybe,
she do 2?
Yeah.
Well, you're supposed to do like a week of antibiotics.
Yeah. Like it's really good penicillin. It's like the best stuff. It doesn't expire. It doesn't do anything. We don't question it.
Exactly.
It's good penicillin. No, we can only do what you can do. I don't even know what the shelf life of penicillin, quite honestly. No, and I'm not gonna look up because I don't want to spoil it for myself. I don't want to. You know what I mean? Yeah. It works if it works, I guess. But yeah. And I was gonna say. Oh man, crap! I was gonna say.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. No, that was a really good point. Man, I hate when this happens.
I was saying that he is good at talking. He recognized something in
thank
Ellie.
You got it. Thank you. Pulled it back. So I think I speak for both of us, but please tell me if I'm right or wrong here, Ryan. Just so I know you. We've been friends for so long. You and I are not religious, and that has nothing. Not necessarily saying anything bad about religion itself. But you and I just are not religious people. I'm very curious about people who have watched the show that are religious, how they view the whole David situation. Because, in a way, you could argue it does come from real life circumstances, as we've seen, right? And I'm not saying that just comes from religion, right? There's always bad people in all sorts of different groups. There's people who take advantage of other people in every group, right? It's just to stereotype one group, right, is always a scary and slippery slope. So I'm curious if there are storygoers out there who are religious and they saw that episode. I'm very curious what their perspectives are. If that was okay, you kind of accepted it, or if it was really bothersome. I'm very curious about what people thought. As I imagine that probably is very frustrating to see that, right? Because I'm sure somewhere in this Last of Us world, right, there is someone who is actually using religion for what it is to inspire hope and to do all that's right with it. But then, of course, we see David who uses it for mischief, who uses it to abuse people in all sorts of different ways. And because he says that too, he says that I didn't become religious till after the epidemic or whatever they call it. So yeah, I don't know. I was just very curious. If anyone out there is willing to write into us to let us know what their thoughts is, whether you're religious or not, I'm just very curious. That's something that was kind of on my mind a little bit. So. Side note, really fast, Ryan, before we go into our... Do you have anything else to say about episode 8?
No. Wild episode.
I wanted to say this. I was watching... I don't usually watch these guys on YouTube, the Corridor Crew guys. They react to visual effects. They're great. I mean, I've been watching... I never really watched them, and then, of course, now I'm watching all their stuff. But they did a Last of Us episode clip from the first episode. And that scene, when the plane crashes, do you remember what happens in that episode? The plane crashes and then something comes flying?
I think I saw the same video. All right, yes. Yeah.
I thought that whatever it was that came flying from the plane smashed through the back window. Right?
you thought what the guy thought in the video.
Yeah, I thought that's what happened. So for anyone that's watched them in the scene in the show when the plane crashes and they're trying to drive away and then something comes flying that hits the car. Yeah, the landing gear that hits the car and flips the car around. I really thought, I thought it was something small. It just messed the car up, right? Because it was flying so fast. I thought whatever it was smashed through the back window and just kind of shifted everything and made the car flip. If you slow it down, though, what happens is the landing gear, the wheel is flying through the air, hits the side of the building, and then smashes what looks like the front of the truck, which is what flips it over and sidelines it. So I just wanted to bring that up because I was like, I wonder how many people had the same thought I had with this. I just thought, I was like, should I feel... it just happened so fast. I was like, I don't think I feel stupid necessarily. It's I'm more just kind of oh, that's really cool. I never thought about that. I didn't know that's what happened to me. Slow it down. All the props to the visual effects work and the setting crew, the people who did the settings of the show. Incredible. They are just literally the cool... how immersive. They did amazing. They did amazing. It's just I can't get over the sets of this show just are amazing, absolutely amazing. Whatever. I think we said this last episode. I am copying myself again, but there is an award show that is for settings and for not settings. What's the word I'm thinking of?
Yep. I
props
don't have
and
the word either.
that stuff. See, if we had awards to promote it, I might know. I might know. I don't watch award stuff, but you never know if I still know it or not. So we'll see. But yes. Okay, cool. Our last episode. Last of Us episode. Wait, who just did the last one? You or me?
I think I did the last one.
Okay, all right. Is it cool if I do the last one? I feel bad a little bit.
Please do.
Oh, okay.
Go for it.
All right, the last episode is Look for the Light. Look for the Light. Yeah, I want to make sure I didn't say it too fast. The similarities being the giraffe scene, of course. Oh, so good.
Very good.
All the hospital sequences, Joel's decision, Marlene's death, and of course the ending as well. Which, I mean, really all of that is very from the game.
Yeah.
From the game,
Very from the game. Yeah, exactly.
The differences being, of course, Ellie's birth, which they have finally confirmed everything, but we'll jump to that in a second. Joel, trigger warning for everybody for this next one, but Joel sharing his attempted suicide. Ellie was knocked out and not really given a choice to give herself up or to die for this cure. And no flashing lights.
In the hospital, in the game, it's like flashing red and there's alarms blaring, which like doesn't make a ton of sense because the hospital's shut down.
Yeah.
And in the show, there isn't. That's all.
Yeah, you're right though. I don't know. I think. Well, Ryan, I've been talking too much. What do you think about the beginning of this episode?
The beginning of this episode, it's really interesting. I really like it, and then I also think it maybe wasn't the place for it in the same breath. What I mean by that is I really liked the addition of Ashley Johnson. I really liked that she gave birth to Ellie, our Ellie in the show. There's some really great connection there that I really liked. I thought that was really cool. I thought the giraffe sequence captured that magic pretty perfectly of their connection. I really liked the addition of Joel. That again, Pedro Pascal kind of tapping into this soft, more willing to be open and share side of Joel is, I think, really adding so much to that character. Because in the game, he just kind of is this gruff dude who doesn't say much.
Yeah.
And in the show, we're seeing a lot more of him opening up. And that moment where he says, wasn't time that made it better, and he doesn't say anything else, but was a really powerful emotional scene.
Yep.
And again, just shows he is a completely different character in this opening sequence than he was when he was first interacting with Ellie, and that he's making jokes, he's talking, he's openly sharing about his past and what the world used to be like and what he used to do, and just he's freely doing these things. But Ellie, you can tell, is different. In this, Ellie has changed. Ellie is not all there, both because she's worried about what's coming. She's probably still working through what just happened. There's a lot of things going on, and he's picked up on that. He knows her well enough to know that she's acting off, and I think that interaction is really good. The intro stuff with Ashley Johnson and giving birth and Ellie and all that I thought was really good, but this episode didn't have a huge runtime, and a huge chunk of it was used for that flashback.
Yeah.
That I think it then made everything else had to be rushed. I think that scene was important, and I don't know how you fix it without having 10 episodes, but it really kind of cut into that runtime, as important as it was. And I think for not just establishing Ashley Johnson as giving birth to Ellie and figuring out why she's immune, but also to establish that Ellie is also important to Marlene. Ellie also matters to Marlene, and in a way that, seemingly has known Ellie longer than Joel has and has more connections to her, but they make very different decisions in the end. But I thought it was a good episode. Just a lot happened in a very quick sequence. It just didn't have a ton of time. I think the ending with Joel was intense and scary, and the most violence we saw in the show. And one of the things I was reflecting on is maybe that's why they didn't have as much violence in these last 2 episodes, because they want the most scary thing in this world to be when you love someone and somebody's going to take that person away. And that's Joel in this moment.
Yeah.
Because it is the ruthlessness of him, somebody begging for life, just shoots him without question.
Shoots him.
Picking up their gun, you know what I mean? Just the intensity is terrifying and so interesting. You have this character who is so compassionate and sharing about his emotions, but then he snaps and becomes cold and ruthless and does not even talk to these people, does not see them as humans, just like murders them in a really intense way that I thought was really good and really well done. But man, was it spooky and scary, and really showed how scary Joel can be when he's really on, when he needs to be like ready to go. That like the Joel at the end of that hospital was who we played throughout the whole game, right?
Right.
This like really competent killer who can just wipe hordes of people out. He takes out an entire hospital of very heavily armed Fireflies and just wipes them out in a really intense way. So I thought that was really strong, and I think that last moment between Joel and Ellie was really strong. I think they nailed that last moment perfectly.
Yeah.
I think that that's such an important moment in the show that then like that has led to like a decade now of people arguing, but they nailed it.
I agree on like all counts of what you just said. Like I think the birth scene was so needed, but at the same time, I question it a little bit, though. I almost kind of like the idea of not knowing how she was. Yeah. I kind of like the idea of that, and it didn't need to be explained. It just was. I kind of thought like that was kind of fun. The thing so actually from you talking about your perspective on all this, I kind of came to a realization that I think I find Marlene to be just a really flawed character. Not flawed like she's badly done, nothing like that. I think she is a person I kind of see flawed for a few reasons now. One, like I question how close she truly is to Ellie, because we do not know what age Ellie was given to Fedra to be raised, right? So like, though Marlene may have had Ellie for like the first few years of infancy, right? I would question that. Yes, she may know Ellie for a long time, longer than Joel has known, right? But does she really know Ellie on a personal level, right? It's like, even from the first episode, she's like, I think she's starting to learn about Ellie, because obviously they haven't seen each other in so long, right? And Ellie, I don't think really understands that she knows Marlene, necessarily. So for Marlene to say, like, I've known her more or known her longer, I feel like that's very petty. I feel it's kind of petty, to win an argument with Joel. And honestly, something I never in all my years, like, and this could be used for the game too, in all my years, it's not like an old person, in all my years, I never thought about this till just now, right? But if Marlene was really smart, she never should have put Ellie under as fast as she did, right? I think if she was smart and she knows Joel, right, and she knows how kind of like unhinged Joel is, right?
She says it to him, right? She says, like, you're the last person who's ever asked to do this. I do not ever want to owe you a favor because of who you are. Yeah.
Like, if she knows Joel, right, and if she knows Ellie as much as she says she does, right? Because I think everyone kind of assumes that Ellie would probably say, I would give my life to do this, right? Marlene should have let Ellie tell Joel, I want to do this. That would have been the way for the Fireflies to do what they would have wanted without any of the casualties, right? I mean, I'm sure there's a small chance Joel still would have lost it and be like, no, I'm not doing it. But I think if Joel if heard from Ellie, I want to do this, I need to do this, he probably would have let her do it as hard as it would have been for him. But because Marlene had to be petty, I would say petty, and the Fireflies had to rush to do it. I don't understand, I guess, and I've seen this a lot on the internet, so I can't take credit for this idea, but like, the idea that like they need to rush to do this they take the cordyceps out of her brain without running like a lot of tests or making sure that this is going to work, or like, having any kind of inclination this is going to they're just going to kill this person and not really know if it's going to lead anywhere. Like, for them to rush it so fast after they had, Marlene says it too, they lost half their people traveling across the country. Like, what, I don't really understand what resources they truly have to make this work. So I question their ability to make this cure happen, which then takes the life of a 13? 14.
I don't know how old she's
I think she's 14.
Is it 14? Yeah.
It takes the life of a 14-year-old girl that could otherwise do something really important in the world. I don't know. So like, I when I first played The Last of Us, I played the game, and maybe I should go back and listen to the episode again that we did. I'm curious what I said there. Yeah. I felt like what Joel did potentially was very wrong. Right, I think Joel stopped humanity from moving forward. Though obviously losing Ellie would have been a travesty, right? And so he in a sense was the villain. Now, years that was like 10 years ago, more so, right? Of that perspective, or not of our episode, but playing The Last of Us for the first time. Now, I see this as like, I think Joel stopped these radical group of people from essentially killing a young girl for nothing, and with no evidence to support that Ellie even wanted to do it. I mean, Ellie wanted to do this. She wanted to make it. I don't think she understood the ramifications of what they were planning to do to her from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, she was being used, right? Like, and to put it as it is, right? Rather than giving her the choice. I think what Joel did, arguably, though as horrific as it was arguably the right thing to do, because one, the Fireflies had no evidence to support that they actually could make this cure, and two, they never gave Ellie the chance to make this choice, and three, Marlene was so petty about the whole thing. And then after everything that Joel does, right, knowing that he's upset about this person that he cares about, she tells her soldiers, kill him if he tries anything, right? Like, like, do you really care about human life that much that you're willing to kill the one person that brought this person that could cure the world across the country? Like, I see Marlene as just a very petty, I don't know. I guess I don't really like her very much. I liked her more in the game, not being fleshed out so much as I do in the show. I like her less in the show from being fleshed out. Like, I didn't think she was going to kill Ellie's mom in the beginning there. I thought she was going to let her turn. And granted, she does. Yeah. And by the way, side note, before Marlene kills Ellie's mom, she looks at the soldier holding Ellie and goes, cover her ears, and then she walks in and shoots Ellie's mom. That soldier did not cover Ellie's ears. Like, that infant heard the blast of that in her ears. That was messed up. I was like, that soldier is,
again, or say, like, go downstairs, just walk away. Yeah,
shows me the confidence of this group of people who want to make a cure for the world. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I hope they flesh that. I hope they show maybe in season 2 that they were very capable of making this cure if they had it.
Yeah.
Like, if they show that they were so capable of having this cure, if they had Ellie's cordyceps brain, I think that would make it a little bit more of a well-rounded, like, okay, maybe Joel did mess up a little bit here. But because of the context, right? And because they didn't flesh it out more in that 52 minute runtime, I think that's the only thing that really suffered, right? Because now I'm more heavily like, okay, I think Joel did arguably the right thing. I think he actually saved this person from this radical group of, like, potentially crazy people. So I don't know, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. What do you think? I'm curious what your thoughts are now about the ending.
Yeah, I mean, I think I hesitate to say anybody who's in the right or wrong here, because I think they are all flawed humans. And the Fireflies want so much to have something to hope for. Mm-hmm. They want so much to have the world be a better place and go back to the way it was. I think they're willing to give up anything to get that for the chance. Like, I would assume the reason they didn't ask Ellie is because they don't want to risk her saying no. They don't want a situation where she says no, and then what do? Let her go? She could save the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they are broken in different ways, that they want this so bad they can't see any other option. This is the hope at the end of the tunnel, and they can't leave it up to chance. Whether it's right or wrong or not, I don't know if they have the ability to think through or understand, or if this is even possible. But if there's the slim chance, I think because of what they've lost, they're willing to do it. I think what's great about this story is everyone is acting, at least to me, how humans would act in that situation, but they're all wrong and all flawed. Marlene, if she would have asked Ellie would have said, yes, this is why I'm here. It has to be worth something. But because they don't do that, because they don't trust Ellie's autonomy enough to ask her, they throw it all away, right? They again, because they believe that this is more important than Ellie.
Yeah.
This is bigger than her. They don't want to ask her, so they don't want to risk it. And in the same thing, Joel, because of who he is, because of what he's lost, there's no world in which he can let Ellie go. And these two immovable forces, right, of this, and it's so wild that, like, what ends up killing these people is Joel loves this girl too much to let her go.
Right.
And Marlene, who, is doing what she believes to be, and the people in the Fireflies believe to be a noble cause, is doing what is for the greater good. In theory, right? If you believe everything that they're saying is true, but in going for the greater good, they're not thinking about the individual and what they want and what they could do, and having those conversations, right? Which is what you need to do. And I think, like, the radical group, like the Fireflies, they are looking to save the world, no matter what that means, right?
Right.
Or who has to die. They're not really thinking about the individuals that's going to impact. They're looking for that big picture. But in doing so, they threw it all away, because if they would have just talked with Lily, she would have said, "Yeah, of course,
Exactly.
do what
Yeah,
you have to do."
yeah.
If I have to die, I've done bad things. If I have to die to save everyone, I'll do it. But because they didn't ask her, because they didn't think to, because they didn't want to risk it, they threw it all away. And I think Marlene wants a win so bad and wants to save the world so bad that she's willing to throw everything away and isn't going to let Ellie risk it and saying no, and isn't going to let Joel risk it in retaliating. She's going to do whatever she needs to do, because she, whether it's going to save the world or not, she believes fully that it is.
Yeah.
And that is what kills them all, is because she believes fully in it is and isn't going to put it to chance, and because she happened to hire the one person who, if they lose one more person, can't handle it, right? It's just this like really both the people they're talking to, the girl who would agree with Marlene, but because they don't ask her, it's just this like really tragic, perfect alignment of individuals who, if they all just talk to each other, they could maybe find a solution that could work. But because of who they are, and because of the world they live in, and because they lost, they can't risk. They can't put anything to risk.
Yeah.
Joel isn't willing to deal with the maybe and the guarantee of losing Ellie. Marlene isn't willing to the maybe of, well, what if she says no, or what if Joel lashes back out? That those options can't happen. So they're just all they all made bad decisions. They all messed up. Because they're humans in a terrible world, and you can't make good decisions in this world. But yeah, I certainly think there was more that could have been done to explore that, or to like at least like have more time with these individuals. But maybe again they're saving, like you said, maybe they're saving that. Similar to the game. In the first game, you don't really know anything about them other than they want to kill Ellie.
Yeah.
And that's the perspective we have in the first game, where maybe, like you said, in this however many seasons they do for the second game, they'll explore that more, and we'll get more of that perspective, and we'll connect with those characters more, because that's kind of what the game's about. But yeah,
it's almost like compromising is just not an option in this world,
right?
Yeah. It's really messed up. Yeah, it's really messed up. And actually, so to it's funny. It's funny that you said you couldn't choose who was right or wrong, and I'm just like, Joel's right. I was like, oh, that's not good for me. No, I think the one thing I will say though, that's to Joel's detriment, is that because of his action now, he has made Tess's death, Henry's death, Sam's death, really everyone's death that they've come across, just not worth the weight of what they gave to help them. Even the antagonists. You know what I mean? Like right. Everybody. Like Joel has taken away the value of their deaths from not accepting and from not getting this cure. Right. That was why Tess was pushing him so hard. Right. If she didn't push him, he never would have gotten so close to Ellie that he now had the thing that he needs the most in this world. So really, it's thanks to Tess that they took this job. Right. But he has now stolen that almost like redemption for Tess, or whatever it was, whatever it meant to her. He's stolen that from her, right? So he's not. You're right. He is definitely flawed. And is there really such a thing as good guy, bad guy? That's questionable. But yeah, it's very interesting. But then of course, I look at the Fireflies, and I think what the show does really well compared to the game that doesn't do it as well is it shows really that Fedra and the Fireflies are essentially just two sides of a coin, two sides of the same coin. Yeah. Right? They're both very flawed. Yeah. They're just both very flawed. You know what I mean? And the idea that Fedra, different QZs are different, right? Like the QZ in Kansas City was, the Fedra there was malicious. They would assault people. They would do awful, awful things. Whereas the one in Boston, I don't think was as bad, though they weren't good.
Yeah.
But then you see, of course, from Kansas City that it's Kansas City, right? I think.
Yeah, it was Kansas City. Yeah.
That from the people taking over, though they only had taken it over for a very short period of time, were also very questionable in their actions too. But of course, I say questionable in this world of like death and destruction, right? I think that regardless of who would be in power, both would be considerably flawed, because the idea of trying to find stability in this unstable world is very impossible almost. I feel like Jackson is really the only time we've ever actually seen stability. And neither Fedra or the Fireflies are involved in that at all. It was not a group of people saying you have to live this way. It was people just coming together and finding finding peace with each other. I think Jackson. They said that Tommy's wife Oh, man,
Oh yeah, she says we're a commune. This is a commune.
yeah.
We're communists. Yeah.
Yeah, and that essentially that, I mean, which is a whole other thing. But
Yeah.
there's a board of members
Yeah.
that they're elected to. You know what I mean? So like it was just it's so I don't know. It's just interesting in that regard that like both Fedra and the Fireflies are shown to be positive and negative in at points, whereas Jackson is like this like utopia. You know, this like literal like amazing place, and that view at the last shot. With Joel and Ellie overlooking the valley that I think it's kind of in a valley, I think, if I remember correctly, that it's in. It just looks so cool, right? And like, this is they're gonna be their home, and that. But of course, I'm going off tangents here, but that last scene of Ellie questioning Joel if everything that he says is true,
right?
And he just I swear, like just like so fast,
Which like not like you said, not only does it make Tess's loss and Henry and Sam. He also essentially sacrifices their relationship because you can see in Ellie, right, that there is something that she doesn't fully believe him, but she can't live in how can this 14-year-old girl exist in a world where the person she loves and cares about most, and if leaves, she cannot live without, just lied to her about the most important thing in her life? How do you exist in that world? So how do you, So again, it there's no good decisions are made. Yeah.
Actually, going back to what you said too, and I think we talked about this last time, and I think when we did our Last of Us. If you haven't listened to our Last of Us episode, you should. This was 3 years ago, almost. So great times. But you see, and I think this is on purpose, right? The way in which Joel and Ellie behaved in the beginning of the game, Joel being cold and Ellie being very open and silly, has now flip-flopped at the end.
Yeah.
Joel is being kind of open and silly and expressive, and Ellie is the quiet, cold one, right? And I think that's not like to go through this whole journey, and they basically swap mentalities or personalities in the sense of like, or not even though, not personalities, not mentalities, but more like what's the word I'm thinking of? Affect, I guess. Affect, yeah. It's just very. It's just sad. It's kind of sad, because you want them to just be on the same page and be happy together, and they are just in two different. Though they're together and supportive and they care about each other, they're kind of in two different worlds at that point. You know what I mean? And I think they're desperate to kind of bridge that gap. But that's also me kind of going off on a limb there. But yeah. But Ryan, overall, what are your thoughts of season 1 of The Last of Us? How many?
I really enjoyed it.
Can I say 1 second?
Go ahead. Please.
Out of how many? But you can give your rundown. But at the end, I would love to hear out of 5 clicker bites, 5 being the best, because we all know the more clicker bites, the better. Out of 5 clicker bites, what would you rate the show? Sorry, go ahead. And one clicker bite's bad. Okay. It's just one bite. Who cares?
Which one? Yeah. What am I gonna do? Yeah, it's gonna take forever. Okay. Overall, I really enjoyed the show. I think it again, for me as somebody who's played the game and has like a connection to the game, it allowed me to re-engage with that story and that world that I really loved and reflect on why that was important at a different part of my life. When I played the game 10 years ago and I was like 23, like how much I knew about the world and what I thought about how things worked are very different than now. And to re-engage with that as somebody who doesn't really replay games, that's just not something that I particularly enjoy, to re-engage with that world in a different way and to see that story told in a slightly different way, but a way that I think still is true to what the story is about, I think was really great. And they did a really great job capturing that. There are always going to be things that, like, I got to spend 40 hours in that world, and, like, the show is 9 hours long, right? So it's, like, it's hard to fit all of those moments and pieces in there. I think overall they did a really good job, and I trust and hope that they got greenlit for a bigger budget and more episodes, and are able to stretch out part 2, because part 2 is huge and long, and, like, you could probably fit 3 seasons in there, honestly, with how much happens.
They are going
and
to.
I hope they... Good. I hope they get the... Oh, perfect. I hope they get the budget in time to do that right, because almost similar to God of War, this first story is so focused on these 2 people only and their story and why they matter. And then the second game opens up so much, and there's so much more of the world in there that you just need more time to tell that. And I hope they'll do a good job, and I think they will. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I'd probably give it 4.5 bites, I think.
Okay. What does a half?
What about you?
What does a half bite look like?
Half bite's like a scratch, or like I pushed them off mid bite.
Oh, okay.
Type thing, or like it's a bite on like one of the lower extremities, so it's gonna take me like 72 hours to turn. It'll be the one like the 4 on my chest that are gonna get me.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I saw like a half bite as kind of like a playful like. You know, like a little romantic little bite or something like that. That'd be funny.
Yeah, just some like tendrils, some tendrils in the mouth,
just a little tendril stuff. Yeah. Just a little. Okay. I don't want to say anymore. Yes, I think Ryan. I think your opinion actually is very similar to what I thought too. Surprise. But like, I think despite the little flaws that we've, it's funny because I had no real flaws the first 5 episodes. Really, I really thought this was a straight shot. I was like, oh my god, if they could do this. And but there's slight hiccups. Like these last 4 episodes were the little things I think they could have done better. Yeah, I think so. But I think overall they did a really good job of. Sorry, my stomach is growling really heavy. Okay, cool. Making sure the mic didn't pick that up. But overall, I think the show does a fantastic job. I think that Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey and all the actors were fantastic. Much better than I thought. I mean, I think it was going to be bad, but I was a little worried. But I think they did great. I'm really excited to see what they do. I read something somewhere. I just told this, we just said this Ryan a second ago, but like I read somewhere that they will make season 2 into more than one season because there is so much there, and I really hope they do. And I'm really excited to see how they take that story with what they have already. I think it's going to be even more. I think it's going to be even more of a rabbit hole for people to jump into compared to season 1, and the idea that it will make people lose their minds. Like, this is wild. You know what I mean? Like, if it is what it is, I almost want to show my girlfriend the reveal trailer with Ellie singing, with the dead bodies in the around and Joel. What do you think is Joel walking in? I really want to show her that so bad, but at the same time, I don't want to spoil it. She might edit this episode, so maybe she'll want to watch. I don't know. That's not the point. But the point is like I'm just really excited to see what they do with this, and I'm glad they said that they will not rush. They won't rush season 2. And I don't know if they really could make season 1 into 2 seasons without it being compelling.
Maybe 10 episodes, but I don't think 2 seasons.
I think 10 episodes would have been perfect. I'm sad they couldn't get the 10.
I don't know where I would have split it, but I feel like there's probably a place you could have done so to have it make more sense. Again, I don't know where. I want to look like.
Yeah, I think if they had one episode of these last 4 to have a really big clicker moment, like they did in episode 4 with episode 5. Episode 5 with the bloater. Like if they had another significant clicker outbreak, I think that would have it would have been 5 clicker bites out of 5 for me, despite the flaws. I think that would have been. I think that's the only thing I'm really looking for is more clicker stuff. But I'm sure
bigger budget to do so.
Yeah, exactly. From what they showed from the behind the scenes of episode 5, it was an undertaking to do that scene the way they did. So I'm sure that a lot of the budget went to that specific scene. That looked really hard. So, but yeah, overall great. Oh, I need to rate it. I would give it. I will be a little different than you, Ryan. I'll try to mix it up a little bit. I will give it 4 3/4 of a clicker bite. I say 3/4 is like they're trying to chomp at you and they get that kind of like the quarter of one side of your gums to the rest of the mouth. Corner.
Got it.
It's just that one. There's that 1/4 of your mouth that just didn't get the bite in there. Really tried hard. You know what I mean? It still did the job.
Sure.
It still did the job.
Yeah.
So really, when you think about it, these clickers are kind of like Komodo dragons, right?
Sure.
I don't know why.
Tell me more. Tell me Komodo dragon facts now.
Well, I mean, okay, now I feel dumb. I was just watching something about Komodo dragons. Their mouths are really poisonous, I guess, right? They're scary. They got scary mouths. Poisonous. I mean, I guess
got really poisonous saliva. Yeah.
I'll, instead of backing up and saying, "Wow, I feel dumb. I shouldn't have said that." I'll just keep digging my hole. Snakes remind me of clickers, and what other bad mouthed?
I want you to name 3 snakes. Name 3 snakes, Eric.
Cobra, rattlesnake, and black mamba. They're pretty good. Okay. That was because of Kill Bill.
Very good.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself.
That's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to talk about any more animals.
No, I think we should do another hour. I'll talk about what animals we think the clickers remind us of. Anyway. I'm really excited for season 2. Neil Druckmann just put out an Instagram post saying that season 2 is already on their way. They're already working on it right now. Yeah. So the picture of what looks like a mysterious hand holding a hammer. I wonder whose it is.
There's no one who uses hammers in season 1 that I know of.
Season or part 2, you mean?
No, yeah, in part
Oh.
1. Why? There's no one with a hammer in
Oh,
part 1. Why
oh,
would there
yeah.
be a person with a hammer in part 2?
Yeah, I wonder.
That's silly.
That's weird. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. Oh, and also, just a side note, in case no one saw this online, but Laura Bailey, who was in part 2,
Very good.
was one of the
Yeah.
nurses in the operating room in the last episode.
Yeah. Yeah, did
Really
you
cool.
see the picture she texted to Neil of her like down posing with the dead
yes.
doctor body?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
cool.
Laura's great. Laura's very
That
good.
is so cool. Good for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so storygoers, we would love to know your thoughts. Did Joel do the right thing? I would love to know more insight. Please.
Take a stance.
Take a
Don't be
stance.
like Ryan.
Just double down. Okay, here's what we want to know. Here's what we want to know. Please, it's 3 things I'd like you to know. Not like it's been hard to write in general already, right? So I'll make it even harder. I would love to know what you think, who made the right choice. Did Joel make the right choice or not? 1. 2, how many clicker bites would you give it out of 5, the season 1? And 3, what animals remind you of clickers? And we will read those. I swear to you, we'll read them all in our future episodes. But you have to send them in for me to for us to read them, please. We love it. Be like Alex and send some stuff in for us to read. All right, be cool like Alex. So. Speaking of which, you can send us all that information to talesfromthecartridge@gmail.com. All the E's are 3s. So, tails with an E, or with a 3, I mean, the with a 3, cartridge with a 3, you get it. All right, yeah, I regret getting that Gmail 2 years ago, but I didn't know, I didn't think it was actually, I didn't think we'd actually be doing this as long as we have been, so who would have thought?
Yeah.
You can also find us on Instagram. You can leave us a message there, or DM us, or of course you can find us, you can also call us or text us at our toll-free number at 207-494-4334. Leave us a voicemail, text us. I won't answer because I get anxious. I never answer calls I don't recognize because it's 2023 and someone's going to scam me and take my voice. So I'm not going to do it. And I won't do it to you either. I should probably way to make it feel comfortable to do this. I won't do it either, I promise.
Add a new fear for the people who are sending in. Yeah.
So remember, did Joel do the right thing? How many clicker bites would you give this season? And then what animal reminds you of your favorite clicker? Or what what animal reminds you of a clicker? That's what it was. And what one was your favorite clicker? Okay, this went off the rails real quick. Ryan, you're pinching your nose like you're releasing some stress there. That's always a good sign. No. I'm just kidding. Storygoers, we hope you're happy and well. Ryan, you look great. Thanks for coming as always. Great co-host. Fantastic. I would, Ryan, if you were the cure for a horrible illness in the world, and you didn't want to be the savior, you didn't want to die for it, I would rescue you. I don't think I could kill a lot of people. I think I would probably kind of sneak around.
Be sneaky, sure.
And then I imagine that if the doctor stopped me with a scalpel, he's like, "Don't come any closer." I think I'd kind of like half moon kick him, the hand, and like shoot the scalpel away, cool, like, you know what I mean, to save you.
That'd be very cool.
I don't know how I'd get you out. That'd be the only. I'd have to get like a wheelchair and just like I'd have to dress up like an old lady, like, just get my grandma out of here, and they're like, oh, it's like the past memories of like hospitals, like, oh yeah, that's just a guy with his grandma, kind of style to get you out of there. I couldn't kill anyone, but I digress. I just said I would save you. I'd do the best I could.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really kind of you.
No worries.
Yeah.
I'd be like, take me! And they'd be like, you're not resistant to the bites. And they'd be like, you know what I do? Sorry. We'll end the episode in 2 minutes. Just hear me out. They'd be like, don't take him. And I'd have you in the wheelchair. I'd be like, what animal reminds you of a clicker? And they'd be like, you know what? I never thought about that.
Wheelchair at them and run.
Exactly. I slowly move my way towards the exit, like, you know what? I've always thought maybe a Komodo dragon would, and I'd stop and be like, me too. And we'd have a conversation about it. And they'd take you back and they'd probably harvest you to make a cure.
Yeah.
But I'd do the damnedest to get you out of there. I would.
I appreciate that.
No
That's
worries.
very kind of you.
All right, so the one person listening, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, not watching. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye. Don't get bit by any clickers.